And they were just like looking at me like I was like, oh, whatever. And then she called me and she's like, you know what? My mom said she thinks you have AIDS. That's how skinny I was. I was literally wasting away. You know what? I was like, what? You mean there's a place in this world where you can go to uni and work at the same time? I had never heard of that. Like, I didn't know that you could go to uni and work. Hello everyone, my name is Kudzie Mapiye and welcome. On this channel, I do videos about my life living in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. And today I'm going to be talking about how I came to Australia. What was it that actually made me come to this country, and what was the process that I followed to be here? So I've been in Australia for 14 years. If you've been on my channel, you know this already. And today I'm just going to step you through the different things that I went through to be here. And I learned a lot of life lessons from my process of coming to Australia. And there are things that I still draw on today. And I think I would like to share those for anyone who's looking to move overseas or even make any kind of change in their life. So my journey to come to Australia, I can say the emotional process started about a year before I came here. So I'll just talk you through my story. I finished my high school in Zimbabwe, and when I finished high school, I already had 2 universities that I had applied to. I had applied to universities in South Africa, and those were the only ones I had applied to because I said to myself, I want to go to uni in another country, but I don't want to be too far away from home. So the 2 universities that I got accepted in were Wits University and Rhodes University, and I wanted to study law. And I was so excited about that. Like, that was my only option that I had. Like, I had put all my eggs into one basket, and this was the law basket. And I'm like, I like the arts. I know I'm gonna love studying law. This is like, I had a vision of who I was going to be as a lawyer. And so 2006, I wrote my A-level exams, and I waited for the results to come. So at the end of 2006, I wrote my A-levels, and then the results came the beginning of the next year, which was 2007. And something happened that just changed the whole trajectory of my life in 2007. The results came, and out of the whole school, the school that I used to go to, out of all the A-level students, everyone got their results at the same time except for me. I wrote 3 subjects, and I only got results for 2 subjects. And the other subject was pending. And I had never even heard of that. I never knew that you could have a pending exam result. And I don't know to this day why that happened, but I know that it was all in divine order. So I got a pending result, and for my first preference for university, which was Wits University, they needed the results as soon as possible, as soon as they came out, because you only gave them your predicted results, and then they wanted the results as soon as they came out so they can officially offer you the degree that you wanted. So that didn't happen for me, and it was quite a long process to wait for my results and then get the results back. And the result that came back wasn't a good result. It wasn't what I expected. And then overall, I didn't do as well as I wanted. And when this happened, and, Wits was always, emailing me, can you send through your results? And I was trying to explain to them what was happening. And when I finally sent through my results, because they were not what I was expecting, they didn't offer me the law degree, to study for the law degree. They didn't offer me that position. Instead, they offered me to study something related to gardening. It was something to do with plants and horticulture. Like, it wasn't even one of my options, but they're like, your results, with your results, we can only offer you this degree. I was devastated. Like, Firstly, I was surprised that I got the result that I did, and I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why my results were delayed, and this delayed the whole process, and I didn't get what I wanted. So I obviously didn't want to study something related to gardening, so I declined that offer, and I accepted Rhodes, which had offered me law. But then, because everything was late, my results were late, I was late with everything, I got the place, but I didn't get accommodation. And I had to look for accommodation off campus. And I had never, I was straight out of high school. I knew that, South Africa had some issues with crime, with all those things. And I didn't feel safe not staying on campus. But I used to call around, I was using the landline back in those days. I would call around in South Africa trying to find alternative accommodation. I got a place, but it looked like the people sounded dodgy. The whole thing just sounded dodgy. I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. So I just let that wait. And I actually took a gap year. And during my gap year, I was working for my family, and I was working there, just earning, something just to get by. I was still staying at home, so I was just earning, enough to do the little things that I wanted to do. And for this whole year, it was the worst year of my life. 2007 was the worst year of my life to date. First of all, the things that were happening in the country, there was no bread, there was no water, there was no electricity, there were no, the shops were empty, all the shelves were empty. I remember going into a shop and, all I could find, the only thing you could find on the shelves was toilet paper. And there was nothing, the shelves were empty. So I couldn't envisage a future for myself in the country at that time. And I was so devastated. I lost so much weight. I lost a lot of weight. I think I was dropping a kilo every day. It felt like that. And I remember bumping into my friends in town. I was walking in town, I bumped into my friend and her mom, and we were chatting, and they were just looking at me, I was like, oh, whatever. And then she called me and she's like, you know what? My mom said she thinks you have AIDS. That's how skinny I was. I was literally wasting away. When you're slim because you want to be slim and you're on a diet and it's controlled, and then when you just waste away, your body just is melting. That was me in 2007. I was so devastated. I was so disillusioned about life. Nothing was going my way. Every plan that I had was not working out. And yeah, I wasn't eating. I remember I only used to eat one meal a day because I was so worried and stressed. I didn't even have an appetite to eat. I was just always thinking, always worrying about my future. And at this time, all my friends had already started uni, all except for, I think, very few people. Everyone had gone there, started uni. I felt like I was lagging behind. I didn't have a plan. I felt like I disappointed my family. I didn't get the results that I expected. I just felt so low. And then something happened in 2007. I was walking with this friend of mine in town, and we were just shopping around, window shopping. We didn't even have money. And I remember we went into this shop called, I think it was Greaterman's. It was a department store. It was either Nicolle's or Greaterman, one of those department stores in Harare. And we were just walking around, and they have those cosmetic counters like Clinique, Estee Lauder, whatever. And we're just walking, and we obviously couldn't afford any of that stuff. We were just window shopping. And my friend said something to me. That statement changed my whole life. My whole life changed in that shop. She said, oh, my sister's in Australia, and, she's studying and she's working, and she can probably afford any of this stuff. I was like, what? You mean there's a place in this world where you can go to uni and work at the same time? I had never heard of that. I didn't know that you could go to uni and work. Everything that I had been hearing, everything that I had come across was all about uni, and in Zimbabwe people just do uni full time. South Africa is the same, uni full time. So I didn't know there was a country where you could actually go to uni and also like have a job that can sustain you. And I'm like, oh wow. She got my attention immediately. And Australia had never occurred to me. That was the first time I heard about people like going to Australia studying. And then I heard that, oh, there's this other friend of mine who's also in Australia. I hunted down her email address. I sent her an email and I'm like, look, I heard something. Is it true that if you're in Australia, you can study and you can work? And she's like, yeah, it's true. I'm studying and I actually have a job. I was sold. I was like, I'm there. This is hard. Like at this time, guys, like the country, it was so hard. Like I used to wake up at 4 a.m. just to line up to get a loaf of bread. That's how hard things were. And by 4 a.m. there was a long winding queue and everyone was only allowed to get one loaf each. So this was my reality at the time. And I'm thinking there's this place where you can go and study and work. So that's how I first found out about study in Australia. And I was instantly like, my whole life became focused on, I need to go to Australia. I need to go and study in Australia. I wasn't worried about how much is it. I just wanted to find out what is the process for me to get to this country. So what I did is I found out some information from this friend who I emailed, who was in Australia. And she told me there was this agency called Koala in Eastleigh in Harare, and you go there, they help you with everything. And I'm like, oh my goodness. At this time, guys, I had not even told my parents that I was even thinking about Australia, because I just need to figure out how to get there. I would tell them later, I just need to figure out the process. So she told me to go to this place in Eastleigh. I got a combi. I didn't know, like in these days, guys, there was no, maybe there was, but I didn't have it. There was no Google Maps. You couldn't like GPS. I didn't have a car. I couldn't drive. So I got a combi. I asked the guys in the combi, and the combi is it's like public transport in Zimbabwe, like their little minivans. And I got into this combi and I just asked the guys, I'm like, I need to go to Eastleigh. I need to go to this road. And they directed me. They're like, okay, so you need to stop at this stop and then take this road, whatever. So I listened, stopped at where they told me to stop. I remember there are 2 churches, like stop there and then go, like the road is in between the 2 churches. I went there. I arrived at this place and in there was this agency and they help people to come to Australia, students. And I got there and they're like, okay, so you have to pay an application fee and we'll help you to look for a place for university. It's going to be $50. Now, if you know Zimbabwe in 2007, you know $50 was not a joke. It was a lot of money. So what I did was I started saving my money into US dollars. I used to convert my money into US dollars. I didn't ask my parents for a single cent. I just saved up my money, exchanged it to US dollars, went and paid the application fee. I looked at these prospectus, like the little booklet that shows you about the university you want to go to. I would see these people like sitting on the lawn. The sun was shining. They looked like they were having a good old time reading their books. I was like, yeah, that is me. That is my life. Like, I need to go to this country. So I paid my $50. I provided them the paperwork they needed from me. And after a few weeks, I got an offer to go to Griffith University. By this time, my parents, I haven't told my parents, I needed to have something concrete. And this is where the first life lesson comes in, that if you want something to happen for you, sometimes you need to take the bull by the horn yourself. Don't wait for other people to come through for you, because you need to let your own desire lead you to act. And I know there are a lot of people who are maybe in Zimbabwe, in different countries, and they ask how do I come to Australia? And they haven't done any research. I'm like, look, if you want to make a change in your life, if you're looking to move, if you're looking to relocate, if you're looking to make something different happen for you, you need to take the lead. You can't come with an open question. How do I come to Australia? Like, ain't nobody got time to be researching for you. You need to come with, look, I've researched, I found this visa. They're saying these are the requirements. Do you know anywhere I can get, like, come with something, take the lead. Don't expect anyone to be more concerned about your life and your future than you are. So that's what I did, guys. I paid my uni fees, and then I had some bargaining power now. I had an offer. I didn't ask for money from my parents. And I knew that in Australia, you could study and work at the same time. So I'm like, okay, so that means I'm not going to ask for pocket money, like I'll be earning my own coins. So that's another tool that I use to, negotiate with my parents to come to Australia. So when I went to finally have that conversation, presented all the paperwork, all the information on the table, they're like, okay, this sounds like a really, really good deal. So they agreed to sponsor me to come to Australia. And that's how the journey started for me to come to Australia. But there was one problem. Everything was done in those days. You had to apply for foreign currency. Everything was going smooth. Like there was no single bump in the road to my journey to coming to Australia. Even going to the bank, asking for foreign currency, everything was going smoothly. And that was another sign to me that this is my destiny, because everything up until that point was so difficult. Everything that I was trying to touch wasn't working out. And this was the only thing that was working out. So I knew that, you know what, I really need to be in this country. I'm destined to be in this country because everything is just opening up for me to go here. And I still took action. I used to walk on foot to get, the police clearance, everything, to get the medicals. All those things, I walked from the city. I remember to get the medicals. It was somewhere in the avenue somewhere. I walked on foot from town. I walked on foot to get my police clearance, guys. I'm talking walking, real walking. I'm talking 10 plus kilometers of walking to get these things. I didn't ask for transport from my parents because I needed to take charge of my life. I'm like, look, I've got one shot. I'm like, this is my one shot and I can't mess it up. So I took all the action that I required. I didn't want anyone to have, any control over that situation. I'm like, look, this is my destiny. I need to take charge. I need to do everything I can. So I did everything that I needed to do, provided all the paperwork up until the visa was granted and everything, except for the one problem. Because of the expense of getting everything and paying, the fees and everything, there wasn't enough money to get a ticket. Can you imagine? There wasn't enough money now to get a ticket. And I remember we went to this place called Star Travel with my dad and to get a ticket. And they said, there's only, on the days that you want to travel, we have one spot left. And if you really want that spot, this flight is filling up fast. Because I needed to meet the dates for orientation and had to arrive in Australia at a certain date. So they're like, there's one more spot left on the plane and you need to get it today. Otherwise it's going to be gone. And there was no money. And my dad's like, okay, can you reserve this? And they're like, no, we can't reserve it. The plane is filling fast. If you want to get it, you have to get the money today. And there was no money. And this was $1,000 plus US dollars. So you can imagine everything you can't just get $1,000 in a day, not in the times that it was back then. So I was like, okay, this is the only bump in the road that I've experienced so far. But I felt hopeful because I'm like, everything has been going smoothly up until this point, and I need to remain hopeful. I can't give up. Every sign has told me that I need to be in Australia. Things have been opening up. That's the only thing that's working out for me. And at this point, guys, I was so skinny. I was so skinny. I was 48 kilos when I came to Australia. And I think that's because I had gained a few kilos after I got my visa, because I was a bit hopeful now. So I was I think when I went to my medical, when the whole process was going on, I was 46 kilos. That's the lowest I've ever been my whole life. Like, I was literally just wasted. I was skin and bone. Like, skin was just literally trying to hang on to my bones. I was that skinny. So with this whole plane situation, there was no other way. So we're just like, okay, we're gonna see what we can do. We get back into the car. We start driving back to my dad's office, and he gets a phone call on the way as we're coming from this place, this travel agency, Star Travel. He gets a phone call, and it's from one of his old clients, a friend. I don't know. He's like, I owe you a favor. Like, you did something for me. I owe you a favor. Can you stop by my office? And his office just happened to be on our way to my dad's office. Like, it was just like on the way. So we just stopped there. He actually left me in the car, and he's like, I'm just going to go upstairs to meet this guy. He said he wants to see me for something. I'm like, cool. I just waited in the car in town, and he didn't take even 30 minutes, guys. He was like literally in and out. He came back. He looked like a ghost. He looked like a ghost. Like, his face was just like, I'm like, what happened? What did he want? He had this envelope, a brown envelope. He gave it to me. He's like, look inside. I opened it. There was $2,000 in that envelope as a gift, as a thank you for, I don't even know what. Like, I don't know what favor, what he was thanking you for, but it's just like, and I remember what my dad said to me that day. He's like God is in this, like, he is helping you, and that to me was the last sign I needed to know that Australia was my destiny. Because the plane, the ticket only cost about 1,000 something. We didn't even end up going back to the office. We did a U-turn, drove back to Star Travel, went and said, is that seat still available? And they're like, yes. And like, oh, you're back so quickly. And it's like, yeah. It's like, we want to get the ticket. And she was so surprised, like, you didn't have money like less than an hour ago, and now you're back. But it was literally a miracle. So we gave her the money, paid for the ticket, and I was on that flight. And I arrived in Australia on the 18th of February 2008. And what I want to share from my story is, guys, whatever your situation, whatever you're going through, everything is in divine order. If things are not working out for you in one aspect of your life, don't worry. Something will happen, and you will know when you are walking into your destiny. The universe will literally open up for you. Things will work out. Everything is in divine order. If you're in a certain country and you're trying to push and things are not happening, like, I know how that feels. That was my whole life in 2007. Nothing was working out for me. But out of the blue, a friend said something that changed my life. A moment, a sentence, a person, something can change the whole trajectory of your life in a matter of seconds, in a matter of hours, in just one day, which is what happened to me. One conversation with a friend changed the whole trajectory of my life. Australia was not an option for me. I hadn't even thought about it, but that just one conversation at the right time made me make that decision. So wherever you are, whatever you're trying to do, don't worry, something will come through, and it can change the whole trajectory of your life. And the other lesson is, take charge of your destiny. Don't wait for people to make things move for you. Make the effort. Don't be asking for people for favors of things that you can make an effort to do. Like, I didn't wait. My parents had a car. They could have driven me to go to Koala. They could have driven me to go to get my police clearance. But I would have been depending on their time and their availability. I knew that this is what I wanted for myself. So I had to do those things myself. I didn't know the combis that went to these places. I asked around in town. I did all the things myself. I saved the money for the application fee. Make some kind of action. Show that you're serious, and the universe, God, will meet you halfway. Take the action and show that, you really, really want this. And I promise you, something will happen. If it's your destiny, nothing can stand in the way, and it will work out in the end. So that's it, guys. That's how I came to Australia. And 14 years later, I am still here. I now have a family, 2 kids. I finished my degree. I've got a house. Everything is going well. So yeah, I feel like it really was my destiny to be here. So yeah, that's my story of how I came to Australia. I would love to hear if you have any comments, any thoughts, please share them down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.